Hey guys, welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs,
And I'm David Woldingen.
and basketball season is back. Sneaking up on all of us, I guess. We're going to talk about Mizzou's overhaul with this roster to try to not go winless in conference play. Before we get into that, please guys go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Spotify. All right, David, this is a roster. Once again, 18 players. So, because of limits, there will be three guys for every game that you just know are not playing. They'll be on the sideline, maybe even be in uniform, but you just know they're not playing. So you have that. I guess the place to start, David, is you do have five guys that are returning off of last year's team.
Yeah, you have Anthony Robinson coming in. He'll be a sophomore. Tamar Bates, um, Caleb Grill. Who else am I missing? Sorry.
You
Trent
got you
Pierce,
got Trent Pierce and you got Aiden Shaw.
Aiden Shaw. Yes. So those are the five back. Caleb Grill is going to be healthy, from what
Yeah.
I know. I know losing him was a big part of why we struggled, basically because of that hard nosed defense he plays. So that'll be big to have him back in the lineup.
Yeah,
And then
go ahead.
hopefully, I was just going to say, hopefully we see Aiden Shaw take a step in his game too. He had so much potential. We just haven't seen a lot out of him other than his defense. So the next step in his game would be to find some type of offensive game. So
Yeah.
if Mizzou wants to really step things up, he needs to take a step forward as well.
Yeah, and if he plays significant minutes, it will be because he's taken a step forward. Part of that is because I think we've got a pretty good idea of who's going to be playing a lot. I would think at the four position,
Mm-hmm.
where with this team, Shaw would probably play. Well, a lot of those minutes are probably going to go to Mark Mitchell, the transfer from Duke, on the Julius Irving Small Forward of the Year watch list.
Yeah, he brings a lot of talent in, and if I remember right, he's one of the highest scoring players out in college basketball right now. So big offensive power for this team, something they desperately needed, something to take the pressure off Aiden Shaw and the other big guys. Who we have a couple coming in who I'm really excited about and excited to see how they play here in the college level. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Well, transitioning right into that, Mark Mitchell, probably your four. There are
Mm,
times where Dennis Gates may want to play big, and Mitchell could bump out to the three and just be a really big guard.
yeah,
He's
you
got the
have
handles that he can do that for stretches, and if he does that, then you're looking at okay, perhaps you just want some size and defense, and maybe Shaw's out there for defense or sheer size. You could be looking at Josh Gray, the transfer out of South Carolina, a 7 footer, 260. And you could pair him with the freshman, Peyton Marshall, also 7 foot, 300 pounds, who, well, I'm super excited about.
yes, me too.
Yeah, Marshall, I think, before it's all said and done, is going to be awesome. This year, I think we're going to find out just how well he has improved his conditioning. When he first committed to Missouri, he was 7 foot, 300 pounds, listed about the same. He has really changed his body, and it has become a leaner, stronger 300 pounds as opposed to what he was as like a junior in high school. How much can he play in terms of endurance? That remains to be seen. I don't think we'll be seeing him more than 20 minutes a game, if that, uh, at least not this year, but we'll see.
And if
I
the
think
team
he and
really
Gray are going to kind of share that kind of center spot,
and if the team
more of a
really wants to
five.
get Eric, if the team really wants to get saucy, they can throw out Trent Burns, who's 7'5", 235 pounds, also a freshman.
Gosh.
So we could potentially see 3 7-footers on the court at once with an Aiden Shaw or somebody as well.
Gosh. Well,
the Your big
and
lineup,
here's
if
the
you will.
thing. The thing that's kind of nice for Missouri is Trent Burns at 7'5", when he committed, the initial analysis was, yeah, you can't teach 7'5", but he is skinny, doesn't have any muscle, not going to be able to hold his own. He is a development piece despite that height. He's come in, however, and I'm not saying he's ready to start, not saying he's ready to play 20 minutes a game, but he will see the court, I think, and he's further along than Gates was probably expecting. So a good sign in that you might actually be able to use him this year as a depth piece, if nothing else. You know, relieving Gray or Marshall for foul trouble or what have you. That's a good thing. Now, outside, Tony Perkins looks to be your point guard, the transfer from Iowa. And when you're talking about who's going to be, your shooting guard, your combo guard, your 2 and 3, there's a lot of guys, David. And
Mm.
frankly, there's some nice options. We talked about Grill, 6'3", the hard nosed defense, kind of has the reputation of being a 3-and-D kind of guy, but has that edge. We saw that in the Minnesota game. Dennis Gates swore up and down that him getting thrown out of the game for his edginess and all that was kind of what sparked the team to that comeback win.
Yeah, his presence, veteran presence, is going to be really helpful because there's a ton of freshmen coming in, a ton of talented freshmen coming in. And with his hard nosed play and ability, not only in practice, but on the court, he could really lead this team and set a tone uh, for the future of this program, honestly. You got quite a few guys coming in. Another decorated freshman coming in, you could see, is Anar Boateng. Uh,
Yep.
probably the most talked about guard coming in to this team, based off.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's probably the
Yeah,
most college ready
yeah,
of these freshmen, ready to play significant minutes, perhaps. 6'6", 215, has the build, the body, as well as the skill. So I think if you're trying to pick one freshman to have a significant impact on this team, Boateng is probably your guy. I want to talk about, David, what you have with these guards when you compare to last year in terms of height. So let's start with point guard. You're replacing Nick Honor, who was 5'10", maybe. Well, now you're looking at Perkins being your point guard at 6'4". All right. You're looking at getting Caleb Grill back at 6'3". Boateng, we just talked about, he's 6'6". And you look at the other guys that you're talking about, even if you go down deeper in the roster, you got T.O. Barrett, he's 6'4". Now I'm just going through all this here. We haven't even talked about Jacob Cruz, perhaps another 3-point specialist who will be more of a guard. He's 6'8". All right. What you're looking at all these guys, and then Marquez Warwick, 6'3".
and
What
then you
that
wonder,
means,
and then you
there's
have
more height.
Jeremy.
And well, what my point here, and I'm going through all these heights. My point is Missouri was so short on the perimeter last year. There was no getting in passing lanes. It was hard for them to really pressure the ball and pressure the passing lanes. And that's the style Dennis Gates wants to play. but his guards were too little last year. That is not the case this year. And think back to Gates's first year, Demoy Hodge, his style fit with Gates to be super aggressive. And yeah, he'd get burned going for a steal, but he got a lot of steals. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that this season just because guys have the reach to knock a ball away.
Yeah, he finally starting to get the athletes
Yeah.
that he wants for the system he wants. And honestly, I'm really excited to see these guys put it all together and play because, like you said, the wingspan of all these guys is tremendous. So not only are they tall, long, but if they're athletic enough and they can get into those passing lanes, they could really cause havoc on the defensive side of things.
Yeah. Now, we've gone this far. We haven't talked about fixing the biggest problem Missouri had, which was simply scoring the basketball. And, well, you know, this is an oversimplification, but if you can't score, what better way to make your team better than by adding the one player who has scored more points than anybody in Division One college basketball? That's what Missouri did, getting Marquez Warwick out of Northern Kentucky. He's the all-time leading scorer for the Norse, and yeah, the lefty there. He's shifty. He can get to the rim. He could be, along with Mark Mitchell, the two of them could be guys that you lean on when Missouri just can't buy a basket and the other team's on a run and you need something to kind of calm things down. You can give it to Mitchell or Warwick and just let them go to work. Missouri did not have that guy last year.
Yeah, and they appear to have a bunch of them this year, in all honesty, especially with Grill being healthy too.
Yeah.
Now he's not going to be your go-to guy to get a score, but all the different styles of guard play that you have, they're going to be able to have basically a line change every 4 or 5 minutes to get fresh guys on the floor, and I don't think they're going to miss a whole lot uh, of offensive power based off that, just because there's so many different styles that could complement each other. It's going to be really interesting to see how Gates handles the rotations, especially early on as he starts to feel out what he has with this team.
Well, what I like is that you have options for different scenarios. He has guys that you feel like, okay, I can see this to just go big against a team with size, or I need points right now. Warwick and Mitchell can have perhaps like a high-low type deal and they just wreck people. Or maybe you take Warwick out and Grill comes back in if you need to just lock down the defensive side of the court. There's options. You have guys with different skill sets and you have that versatility. Maybe you need to get a comeback and you need all the points you can get. If you got Cruz and Grill both setting up at the elbow and Mark Mitchell or Warwick just driving the lane, someone's going to sag in there. One of them is going to be open for a three.
And then you have Peyton Marshall underneath causing havoc with his 300 pounds.
Yeah. And all this, we haven't even talked about Marcus Allen. I think he's the one freshman we haven't talked about yet. 6'7", 220, coming out of Miami. You know, he's athletic as well. This team is more athletic than they were a year ago, if nothing else. That I don't think is debatable.
Yeah, and I believe preseason they had Mizzou finishing 13th in the SEC. I know the SEC is going to be rough this year. Every team's improving, getting better, but I really do think Mizzou is underrated and flying under radar on this one just because of how much talent they did bring in. You're talking a top 5 recruiting class and then like a top 15 transfer class coming in. So, based off that, this team I think will make some noise. Do I think they're good enough to win the SEC?
No.
Who knows? Who knows until we see a finished product on the court. But are they going to be blown out of every game? this year. No, I think they're going to be in every one of them, and they're going to give teams a run for their money just based off all the talent, young and old, that they have on this team. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think
this
it's
looks
just going
like
to
a
be,
team that on the right night can catch anybody,
yeah.
at least on paper.
I
Now,
think
as
of a
far as how well they can do throughout the season, I don't know. I mean, we're going to do a video just kind of giving our season predictions. I guess I think it's fair to say the goal is the NCAA tournament and just kind of have that as your bar. I mean, it's year three of the program, so that should be the goal by default, right?
mm,
And we'll talk about what we think the likelihood of that is in a coming video. But that is something that you can at least consider. This is not going to be a team that wins one or two games or zero in SEC play. I feel confident of that much, at least.
well, and quite honestly, we'll get a good idea of this team right off the bat because they open up on the road at Memphis, and Memphis is a
Yep.
solid team. So, I mean, we'll have a real quick idea of what we got on our hands talent wise. If the game, like, if they lose, if it's a competitive game right down to the wire, you know, for the first game of the season, they can build upon that, really improve, and they can find themselves there. Now, if they come out and win that game, all of a sudden you're looking real pretty, uh just helping your track record for the tournament. So
Yeah. Well, and without getting into prediction type stuff, I think that game will be kind of a let's figure out some rotations
yeah.
because Gates, has an entire football team that looks like on his bench.
Which honestly, after last year, it's nice to have options.
Yeah. So, uh, you know, a talent upgrade, not debatable. Uh, reasons to be optimistic, absolutely. Rebounding, addressed. Scoring the basketball, addressed. You can see the thought behind pretty much all these guys that were added. So, yeah, there's reasons to have hope. There's reasons to think, hey, these freshmen, maybe not this year, but you can start to see signs of, hey, if there can be progress this year, this thing might slowly but surely get back on the right track. And and that's all you can hope for really going into this season.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And before we sign off, I want to mention one other thing, which will give this team a huge lift. Congratulations to Dickie Nutt for ringing the
Mm,
cancer-free bell.
yes.
Having him back in the organization, I think will give a lift to the whole team. So, phenomenal news. Hopefully, he stays that way, and
Yeah.
it's going to be good to see him back on the sidelines.
Yeah,
Uh, and with
absolutely.
and with that, I hope you guys are ready to enjoy a crazy basketball season because who knows what we're going to get with this team. But if you stay tuned with us, we'll keep you updated with all things Mizzou basketball. Thank you for watching Under Yard Sports.